What's going on, boys? Quinn69 here. How you guys doing today? So as you can see here, today I'm going to be bringing you guys some sort of a dissection or maybe overview of the Sunwuko's 2.4 rework. Yeah, we're going to go over some of the pros and some of the cons and some of the cons and some of the cons of this set because it's kind of messed up right now. From like a fundamental standpoint, like mechanically it doesn't really function that well. And we'll go over some of the kind of unorthodox builds we can use to make this kind of function at somewhat of a subpar rate, you know. But whatever, let's go over it. Let's talk about how it works. The 2 set. Your damage taken is reduced by 50% while Sweep and Wind is active. This is a nice passive mitigation and is an update from the earlier PTR versions where it was just 5% reduction per Sweep and Wind stack. So in order for this to function fully, you'd have to have a Vengeful Wind equipped, so you get to 10 stacks. But now they've just changed this to a 50% damage reduction. Step in the right direction. Is it enough? I don't know. This build is still insanely fragile. 4 set. Every second, Sweep and Wind spawns a decoy next to the last enemy hit that taunts nearby enemies and then explodes for 500% weapon damage for each stack of Sweep and Wind you have. So if you have a Vengeful Wind equipped or in the cube, that means you have 10 stacks, so it does 5,000% weapon damage per second. And a small AoE radius that kind of taunts everything. This is item damage, so it does not proc area damage. And on top of that, 5,000% weapon damage per 1 second is very mediocre. I mean, the 4 set is more there for the taunt utility, like it's a very slight mitigation versus white monsters and such. But apart from that, the damage is just not there. This 6 set. A Lashing Tail Kick, Tempest Rush, and Wave of Light. So no longer is EP a part of that list. Consume a stack of Sweep and Wind to deal 1,500% increased damage. This is kind of a good idea, and notice I'm saying idea, if you provide mechanics in which to kind of make this 6 set function in a fun way. But right now, you can imagine what their intention was. Okay, so they're gonna use, 6 spenders or 7. They're gonna attack until their Sweep and Wind stacks are at 1. Yeah, and when they're at the final, when their Sweep and Wind's about to drop, then they're gonna use a generator. They're gonna put a generator on their bar, and they're gonna be like, let's attack. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then go punch, 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 punch. Get your Sweep and Wind stacks back. Then spend again, like that. And at the same time, you've kind of got a natural, you're gaining stacks, gaining spirit, spending spirit, losing stacks, gaining, it's kind of like this kind of flow. But the second you start moving this to the end game, where characters have pretty high APS, for example, with these river dancers, so this is with the Lashing Tail Kick build, LTK attacks 50% faster and deals up to 300% increased damage. With some one-handers, you can quite easily hit the 5 APS cap. And on top of that, that's multiplied by 50% value. So you're attacking like every 130 milliseconds. And you can only spend 9 stacks. So that means you're going to lose your stacks in around 1 second. Okay, so that means you've got a rotation of 1... punch, 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 1, punch, 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 and this results in about this much damage. It's disgusting. So now you might be like, hang about, but what about this new belt that they've added in? What about the Kairisho's Soul? Sweep and Wind gains 2 stacks for every second it does not deal damage to any enemies. So what this means is you can effectively make builds that, as long as you're not in range of enemies with your Sweep and Wind. So mind you, this belt is actually giving us Sweep and Wind increased damage by up to 125%. We're using a weapon that increases the stacks of Sweep and Wind, aka increasing the damage of Sweep and Wind by a lot. And now we're being encouraged to not stand in range. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run around and attack with range Wave of Lights, completely making all the Sweep and Wind stuff useless, because, we're now effectively a ranged monk, and if we go anywhere more than 2 attacks per second, so if you go over 2 attacks per second, obviously you only gain 2 stacks every second, that means you then are attacking too fast to maintain the stacks, and you will then spend all your sweep and win stacks, and then you're going to drop the whole buff altogether. And it kind of makes for this really awkward kind of ranged monk that you kind of just can't get hit by anything. The second anything gets into a range, then your stacks start dropping really fast, and then you lose your stacks, and then you do no damage, and then you try to recast them, and it's just pretty lame gameplay. Potential solutions to the problems I've just been talking about would be to rework the Kairisho Soul, so you know, remove the whole requirement to not be standing near enemies, and then just make it so it passively gives you sweep and win stacks every second. Preferably, you know, 5 stacks plus per second, as, you know, we're going to be running some fast attacking builds. The only bad thing about this is it would be, you know, kind of making the whole 6-set rotation quite redundant, and then the whole idea is kind of pointless. It may as well just be passive damage increase. On top of that, we need more sweeping win stacks, because right now it's kind of ridiculous. You are forced into using Vengeful Winds if you want to do anything, and on top of that, 10 stacks isn't enough. So they need to probably just redesign Vengeful Wind, maybe make it into something more like the Crusader Invoker set, so like maybe make it so like whenever you attack with certain attacks, it increases the damage of your sweeping wind by X amount for X seconds. You know, that could be pretty fun, and that would actually make sweeping wind builds from trash tier to actually something cool. Okay, so this is one of the only functioning builds here. This is a Wave of Light setup where I specifically stay in range to keep my sweeping wind stacks up. So this is the gameplay here. Pretty much just going to run away and drop gigantic fire dongers on people's face. And as long as you don't keep anyone in range of you, you should be able to put out a decent amount of damage. I mean, this is GR 70. But I mean, I am Paragon 1800 and I have like level 90 gems in and stuff, and you know, don't get me wrong, my gear is not perfectly optimized. So probably with perfect gear, I could probably doing like, this could probably be doing like a 75 right now maybe. And you can see here, I just killed all those guys. I'm going to pick up all these orbs, juicy orbs. And then I'm just going to kind of run around like a little, it's kind of like a reminiscent of a, so you see there, I just have to refresh my sweeping wind. I obviously dropped some pillars when I was in range of enemies. My sweeping wind dropped, so now I've got to kind of let my stacks come back up, and then I've got to kind of stay away from these enemies. So you see my sweeping wind is not refreshing, so I'm going to have to manually refresh it myself again. It's not refreshing because I got enemies in range of me. Get away from me. And this is the gameplay, boys. So I'm just going to be dropping big fireballs and trying to keep anyone away from me in order to keep my sweeping wind stacks. This build does function quite well. It clears the rift, and it can kill rift guardians quite well actually with one of these new items. We'll go over in a future guide, obviously. But this is what a torch setup looks like. Well, this is what a wave of light setup looks like. Let's show you guys a Lashing Tail Kick. Okay, so this here is the Lashing Tail Kick build. Right now I'm running Way of the 100 Fists of Fury. It's got a big dot on it, and what that dot does is the dot ticks really quickly, and when the dot is ticking, it's giving me tons of sweeping wind stacks. So that allows me to attack at such a fast APS. Because everyone is going to be attacking at a really fast attack per second, you know, they're going to be attacking really fast because they have the river dancers on, which increase your APS by 50% when you're using LTK. And this is the only way I've really found to actually maintain, you know, your sweeping wind stacks when you're actually attacking at this kind of rate. Because watch what happens when I do not Fist of Fury. So look at my stacks, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I've just lost my stacks. The second you do not dot them with this Fist of Fury, you're basically screwed. And when you're doing single target rotation, you have to constantly weave. So what I do is I just I sit there LTKing and I just weave. You just tap, you know, the Way of the 100 Fists into the rotation. So you see here my stacks are fluctuating up and down, up and down, up and down. And if I stop using Fist of Fury, you're going to see my stacks here. 4, 3, 2. I actually used a Fist of Fury there for Spirit. I mean, Fist of Fury is just a really OP mechanic to actually kind of fix this set to a certain extent. But that's only because we're using this gimmicky dot mechanic, which is definitely not intended. People are not going to know, oh, I should probably just use this particular Spirit Generator with this particular rune in order to keep, you know, to fix the set. And, you know, instead of using something that has a lot of utility, like, you know, quickening or something that actually gives us, you know, extra spirit back or whatever, we're forced into using a dot mechanic just so we can kind of glitch our way to have loads of sweep and win stacks. Obviously I am using Lashing Tail Kick, Vulture Claw Kick, and this does have loads of dots in it as well, and the dots do refresh your sweep and win stacks. So when I'm attacking loads of targets, using Fist of Fury is not that important. You can see here I will actually maintain, I'm using Fist of Fury right now, but I mean my stacks don't really go down in an AoE situation. It's only when you start getting to those low kind of amounts of targets that you start running into issues. But this is the fundamental flaw in the set. It's the fact that you're having these huge issues with your stacks instead of actually just doing a rotation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the discussion and the overview of this set. Obviously it's not in a place where I would like it to be. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Maybe you guys think this is a really cool setup right now. You know, leave your guys' comments and your thoughts in the, you know, if you have any ideas in the comments below. And, you know, if there's anything really awesome in there, I'll definitely try and convey that on my stream and try to talk to some community managers. And we'll see if we can get anything done to maybe get this altered or changed before this hits live. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching and peace out.